Al-Ghazali, the philosopher who gave money a conscience. When people usually think about the origins of economic thought, they instinctively turn to Adam Smith, Karl Marx, or, if they paid close attention in school, Aristotle. But hidden in the medieval world is a quieter truth, a truth rarely taught in Western history. Nearly 1,000 years ago, before capitalism or central banks even existed, a Muslim scholar issued a warning that still echoes in every financial crisis today. He said that when money loses its moral compass, societies rot from within. And judging by the world we live in now, he may have understood us far better than we realize. Welcome to the world of economic records, where money, power, and history collide, and nothing is ever quite as simple as it seems. To understand Abu Hamid Al-Ghazali, one of the most influential thinkers of Islam's golden age, you must imagine a world that feels both familiar and foreign at the same time. The year is roughly 1100 AD. Europe is fragmented and poor, struggling to emerge from the wreckage of the Middle Ages. Meanwhile, the Islamic world stretches from Al-Andalus in Spain to Persia and beyond. Its cities are wealthy, crowded, advanced. Baghdad, Damascus, Cairo. These are centers of financial and intellectual power. Trade routes buzz with caravans carrying silk, spices, textiles, and silver. Scholars debate philosophy, law, astronomy, and medicine. Markets are vibrant, empires are wealthy, and prosperity is transforming society faster than anyone can fully comprehend. And in this world of expanding trade and growing inequality, a scholar named Abu Hamid Al-Ghazali emerges. Part philosopher, part jurist, part theologian, part critic. Think of him as the kind of thinker who could explain both the purpose of the soul and the purpose of a monetary system without blinking. Born in 1558 in Persia, Al-Ghazali rose rapidly through intellectual ranks. By his mid-30s, he held one of the most prestigious teaching positions in the Islamic world. But what made him exceptional was not his status. It was his refusal to accept the status quo. He saw a world where wealth was increasing and markets were expanding, yet something felt deeply wrong. A society obsessed with money, but drifting away from meaning. An economy flourishing on the surface while decaying from within. It doesn't take much effort to see the modern parallel. Al-Ghazali began asking a question few dared to ask. What happens when a civilization grows rich faster than it grows wise? To answer this, he turned his focus to the concept of money itself. This is the part that surprises many Western audiences. Al-Ghazali was not merely a religious thinker. He was one of the first philosophers to analyze money in moral and systemic terms. While Aristotle saw money as a practical invention, and later economists analyzed it mathematically, Al-Ghazali examined its psychological and spiritual effects on society. He looked at how money shapes behavior, incentives, trust, and ultimately, the fate of nations. To understand his economic ideas, you must first understand how he viewed money at its core. For Al-Ghazali, money was not meant to be accumulated, hoarded, or used as a status symbol. It was a tool, nothing more, a facilitator of exchange. He compared money to a mirror. A mirror has no value in itself. Its value comes from what it reflects. Money is the same. Its power does not lie in money is the same. Its power does not lie in gold or silver themselves, but in what they enable people to exchange, build, and cooperate. This is a concept modern economists often claim as their own, but Al-Ghazali was writing this in the 11th century, at a time when many Europeans still understood wealth primarily as land or plunder. From this foundation came one of his most important insights: hoarded money is dead money. Wealth locked in chests, hidden in rooms, or buried in courtyards was not merely useless, it was socially destructive. Idle wealth does not circulate. It does not feed workers, finance trade, or support families. It chokes economic life. He described this as freezing the flow of blood in a body, an expression that would fit seamlessly into any modern critique of inequality. But Al-Ghazali was not simply complaining about greed. His argument was systemic. When the wealthy hoard money, they create scarcity, not because resources are lacking, but because circulation is blocked. Prices distort, markets collapse. People suffer. This critique led to his next major idea: speculation destroys trust. Al-Ghazali had no tolerance for traders who manipulated prices, created artificial scarcity, or profited from crises. Speculative behavior, in his view, was not clever strategy. It was moral corruption, profit without contribution. Whoever profits from the suffering of others, he wrote, profits from corruption, and to him, corruption was contagious. Once it took hold, it spread through markets, institutions, and eventually the entire society. If this sounds like a commentary on modern financial bubbles, predatory lending, or crisis profiteering, it is. It was just written 900 years ago. Yet, Al-Ghazali was not anti-profit. He was not anti-business. He did not call for monastic withdrawal or vows of poverty. He strongly believed in trade. He believed markets were natural and necessary. He believed wealth could be meaningful, even noble. His true target was dishonest trade, fraud, deception, lying, false weights, hiding defects in goods, manipulating information. He believed markets function only when participants trust one another. And when trust collapses, the economy collapses immediately after. In this sense, he was one of the first thinkers to describe what modern economists call transaction costs and information asymmetry, without using any jargon. Another of his key insights concerned the value of labor. He argued that work is inherently honorable, while unearned wealth is spiritually dangerous. Money earned through labor builds character. Money accumulated through manipulation corrodes it. This may sound moralistic, but the logic was practical. Societies grow stronger when people contribute. They weaken when people exploit. Al-Ghazali did not stop at individuals. He also offered one of the earliest critiques of state interference in currency. Medieval rulers, like many modern ones, expanded their budgets by debasing gold or silver coins, taxing people through hidden inflation. Al-Ghazali explicitly condemned this practice. To him, devaluing currency was theft. It damaged trust in markets, punished the poor who received weaker money, and destabilized the financial system from the top down. He believed the state had a role in protecting fair markets, but that role was limited. Leaders should safeguard the economy, not manipulate it for short-term gain. He warned, unjust rulers destroy prosperity faster than any external enemy. And once again, the modern parallel needs no explanation. Throughout his lifetime, political fragmentation was increasing. Dynasties fought for legitimacy. Local governors squeezed populations for revenue. And as always, when rulers felt their control slipping, the first thing they tightened was the economy. Some raised taxes to painful levels, others manipulated currency. Some seized merchant assets. Others borrowed recklessly, leaving future generations to bear the cost. None of this was new, and none of it solved the underlying problem. Al-Ghazali believed corruption at the top flowed downward like poison. When rulers deceived their people, merchants felt justified in deceiving customers. When institutions failed to act with integrity, individuals saw no reason to behave responsibly. From palace to treasury to neighborhood market, the flow of money became a chain reaction of mistrust. His conclusion was harsh, but simple. A society can recover from poverty, but not from corruption. Economic collapse is rarely about the exhaustion of money or resources. It is about the breakdown of trust, the invisible glue that holds together every transaction, every contract, every currency, and every institution. When trust erodes, even the richest nation becomes fragile. From this perspective, his ideas on currency make perfect sense. For Al-Ghazali, monetary stability depended entirely on honesty. Debasing coins or diluting gold and silver content was not just bad policy, it was deception, it was betrayal. A ruler who manipulated currency was not being clever. He was slowly stealing from his own people. What looked like a minor adjustment in coin purity was, in Al-Ghazali's view, the beginning of financial decay.
He even predicted that if states manipulated their currencies too often, people would eventually lose confidence, abandon local money, and turn to stronger foreign currencies instead. 1,000 years later, this dynamic has played out in Germany, Zimbabwe, Venezuela, Argentina, and every modern case where people flee their own money because they no longer trust the promises behind it. Meanwhile, 21st century debates about inflation echo this medieval scholar's understanding that money is ultimately a belief system, and when people stop believing, the system stops working.
But Al-Ghazali's financial insight went even deeper, into human nature itself. People hoard out of fear. They speculate out of greed. They cheat when they think they won't get caught. They manipulate money because money is easy to manipulate. They rationalize unethical profit because everyone else is doing it. And when a society reaches the point where exploitation becomes normal, collapse has already begun. This belief guided one of his most powerful insights. You cannot fix an economy without fixing the incentives that shape human behavior. Laws matter. Markets matter. But behind them all are humans, making choices driven by ambition, fear, desire, and temptation. If a society's systems do not channel these incentives toward productive and honest, the economy will drift toward corruption, instability, and self-destruction. This is why Al-Ghazali placed such importance on the moral dimension of wealth. To him, wealth without responsibility was not just spiritually dangerous, it was a threat to the common good. He did not believe wealth was inherently evil. He believed it was incomplete without purpose. A society grows stronger when individuals contribute more than they extract, when the impulse to accumulate is balanced by the duty to uplift. This is complete poem. You were friends with wife and Jeffrey. But when wealth becomes detached from social responsibility, when profit-seeking ignores collective well-being, the system becomes fragile. A selfish society eventually collapses under its own weight, and when it does, everyone pays the price, including the wealthy who thought themselves immune. Civilizations rise when people understand balance. They fall when that balance is lost. Which brings us directly to the modern world, a world where Al-Ghazali's insights feel less like medieval philosophy and more like a diagnostic report of our current age. We live in a global economy where money moves faster than meaning, where wealth inequality is approaching levels unseen for centuries, where markets often reward speculation over contribution, where trust in institutions declines every year, where inflation quietly erodes purchasing power, where financial bubbles grow and burst with predictable regularity. Wherever you look, you see echoes of the problems Al-Ghazali described on a global scale. His critique of hoarding mirrors today's debates about billionaires, offshore accounts, and concentrated wealth. His warnings about speculation resemble modern concerns over housing crises, cryptocurrency volatility, shadow banking, and predatory markets. His condemnation of manipulated currency cuts straight to the heart of today's monetary policy debates. And his belief that trust is the foundation of prosperity explains why countries with stable institutions, honest courts, predictable regulations, and transparent governance tend to have stronger currencies and more resilient economies. What surprises modern readers is how little the world has changed. Technology is different, markets are faster, scale is global rather than regional, but human behavior is the same. Al-Ghazali would look at our system: runaway debt, speculative frenzies, rising inequality, political paralysis, institutional distrust, and repeat what he wrote 1,000 years ago: where justice disappears, prosperity cannot survive. Al-Ghazali. This is an uncomfortable truth. Economies do not collapse because numbers fail to add up. They collapse because people stop trusting one another. Because incentives reward the wrong behavior. Because institutions fail to protect the justice that makes markets possible. Human emotion, human fear, human greed, human shortcuts. These, not abstract economic formulas, are what drive civilizations into crisis. Al-Ghazali was not preaching religion. He was describing reality. He understood something economists often struggle to accept. Money is not a mechanical object. It is a moral ecosystem. And when that moral framework breaks down, the financial system follows. That is why his ideas matter today. In an age defined by record debt, speculative excess, institutional distrust, and financial anxiety, his core message becomes a principle of survival. If money becomes detached from morality, the system will eventually collapse. Understanding this is not just financial education, it is financial protection. Because history does not repeat, it's time to do what it is, because then you will find out, and coming, above all,